My next Patreon question is from Joey, who wants to know how a specific period in animation is generally perceived. It's been a long time since I've read about this part of animation history, but why were the 1970s and 1980s usually considered a bad time for anime TV shows by animation experts in history books? Also, can one still enjoy an anime TV series from those years, even with all that historical knowledge? So like Joey mentioned, it's common for books and documentaries about animation history to tend to look unfavorably at television animation during that time. There are a number of reasons for this. In the case of the 70s, the animated television blocks tended to be dominated by Hanna-Barbera during a time when a lot of their shows tend to have a sameness with recycled elements from their previous successes in the 60s. Scooby-Doo was a show HB particularly liked to do clones of, involving some wacky sidekick, usually an animal, but also the occasional human like Captain Caveman. They would then be teamed up with a couple of young protagonists as they went on all sorts of adventures. To a lot of adult viewers, and probably even the child viewers looking back, these shows were seen as very formulaic and safe, and mostly being churned out, so the networks could have something on their Saturday morning schedules. In addition to Hanna-Barbera, there was also Filmation and Rankin Bass, which were also known for having simplistic animation and formulaic storylines with little adult appeal. And as much as people like to talk about a lot of modern animated shows being based on familiar properties, the 70s also had a lot of those. There were animated series based on musical acts like the Jackson 5 and the Osmonds, as well as ones based on sitcoms like The Brady Bunch, My Favorite Martian, and I Dream of Jeannie. Even Lassie got one during this decade. One of the few original animated series during this decade that did not fit into the usual formula of the time was Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. It's a show that would remain fondly remembered for years, although I don't know what its future legacy will be considering, well, you know. And while it is based on a popular television show, Star Trek the Animated Series is generally considered a worthwhile part of the franchise. Yes, it had the usual style associated with Filmation, but the writers nonetheless attempted to make the episodes feel like genuine Star Trek. They particularly seemed to take advantage of the medium to accomplish things that would have been difficult and expensive to pull off on the original series. Even though the animated television shows from the 70s are not exactly considered high art, the specials produced during that time will tend to be highly regarded, like the Peanuts and Dr. Seuss specials and Rankin Bass's stop-motion holiday specials. As for the 80s, that was a decade that seemed to particularly emphasize animated shows based on toys. Those flooded the channels with He-Man and Transformers among the most popular. I mean, they even made a cartoon based on the Rubik's Cube, for crying loud. It was also common to take any popular movie, even if it was not aimed at a family audience, and turn it into a Saturday morning cartoon. The writers working on the 80s animated shows tend to be restricted with what they could do, but you do see a crop of rising television writers pop up who sought to inject some life into their IP-based shows, like Mark Evanier on Garfield and Friends, and Tom Ruegger on A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. Nonetheless, the 80s was a decade largely categorized by animated shows where the executives made the call, and there was little room for original, more creative-driven shows. And again, a lot of the animation tended to be simplistic. It's why a lot of people thought Michael Eisner was crazy to spend so much money on the early Disney animated shows like DuckTales, but he naturally reasoned that viewers did not associate Hanna-Barbera or Filmation-style animation with Disney, and that they would be expecting something more. And he proved to be correct, as several of the Disney animated shows of the 80s were very successful and well received. But aside from the Disney ones, I think it probably would not take long to list the genuinely really good animated shows from that decade. Ones that had fun ideas that were well executed with solid storylines and compelling characters. Inspector Gadget, the Raccoons, The Real Ghostbusters, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are a few of the shows that come to mind to me personally. Regarding the second part of Joey's question, I think you can absolutely enjoy the animated shows from the 70s and 80s as long as you don't prop them up to dump on modern animated shows. They are just different, each with their own specific goals and approaches to them, and you should never use your own fondness for your childhood favorites to insult what could be the favorites of later generations. I also did a video a few years ago about how certain periods in animation history deserve more respect than they're ordinarily given, including 70s television animation, despite some of its drawbacks. Thank you for your question, Joey.